Okay, we will start. So last class we started with chapter 15. We saw the most important concept, which is the description of Samsara Vriksha and how Ashanga Sastrena Dridena Chitva, that is it's a very powerful usage. Use this sword of detachment and cut the Samsara Vriksha, Suviruda Moolam. Cut at its root. Otherwise, this has a tendency to keep growing again and again. So that was the concept which we saw last class in terms of Ashanga Shastrena, Dridena Chitva, Suviruda Moolam. These are the very important words. Otherwise, this tree has the propensity to keep growing all the time. And it keeps growing all the time. In these 2-3 slokas, so beautifully he described the strength of this tree, which has its roots on the top, and literally the roots are on the top, because we are all from the Purushottama. This chapter is Purushottama Yoga. So the roots are literally in the top. And it's a tree which is hanging. And what is so characteristic about this Ashwatha Vriksha, which exactly an Ashwatha Vriksha also does, is as it starts growing, it starts shedding roots and then they anchor the tree even more. So all these we also saw from Mahabharata. No, Ashwatha Vriksha and banyan tree are of the same family.
Ashwatha Vriksha will not have this.
No. You will have. It has. That's what I said. When I went to Sri Lanka and then they showed me the tree, they said this is 2,600 years old.
Banyan.
No. It's Ashwatha Vriksha. So sprawling, and it was no way we could make out what is the Bodhi tree. It may be Pipal tree. It may be.
Bodhi is this one,
Ashwatha. The banyan. Yeah. I think it's Ashwatha Vriksha only. I don't exactly remember.
What do you say banyan tree in Sanskrit? People?
Vata Vriksha. Vata Vriksha. This is Ashwatha, but they belong to the same family. Botanically, they belong to the same family. I think both of them have this structure.
Actually, Ashwatha Vriksha is very dangerous. It comes in
Yes. Yeah. So the choice of Ashwatha Vriksha is a very powerful choice, because that's what Samsara Vriksha is all about. We can get very worldly. I was talking about the casino game and so on. We can get very worldly in life. That's all very interesting, like casino. Once you have to enter and get into it. Once you get into it, you do not know how time passes by.
Minimize the loss, you said. Minimize the loss.
So that's how we play the life. Life to me is exactly casino game if you are very worldly. That's what that Ashwatha Vriksha is talking about. Now we move to a few. Although this is a very small chapter of 20 shlokas, I think the material here is quite substantial, very, very important. The next set of ideas are a set of shlokas 6 to 11 or 12, where there is a description of the connection between the Jiva and the Purusha. Because this chapter is about Purushottama. How is this connection happening? So if we say there is a God particle in every one of us, what is this God particle? What is it doing? And how is it connected to the... So these are the, substances for discussion, ideas for discussion in this chapter. So I want to, in preparation to see some of them, I want to share a few thoughts, because once we have a certain understanding of these thoughts, I think the shlokas can become much easier for us. See, what has happened? The spirit has taken the shape of a matter, or it has entered into matter. That is the final thing. The Purusha has gotten into the Prakriti. And then this world, the Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, everything is part of that. But moment a Purusha gets into a Prakriti, which we have seen it in chapter 13, but we need to understand it very well, there are a few things which should always happen. Last class I showed the difference between Atma and Anatma. So this is a recollection of that. See, moment a spirit enters into a matter, then three things, in my opinion, must happen. First, this whole unit must be subjected to change and destruction. This is a universal law. When Purusha gets into the Prakriti, then this integrated unit, we are all made of that, must go through change and destruction. Maybe some people are not getting something. Hello? Yeah, can you talk to me later? I am in a class actually. Yeah, it is in C13. Can you tell C13? Somebody is asking where is the class. So, moment the spirit enters into the matter, three things must happen. First, change and destruction will happen. Now the only question is the spirit destroyed or spirit not destroyed? That's the only question you can ask. This integrated unit must go through change and destruction. Second, it can have properties which can be entirely in conflict with the original. For example, we say Purusha is Anadi and Ananta and doesn't have a beginning, it is limitless, it is Kalatita, Gunatita, but this new creation in which the spirit entered into the matter can technically have all opposite properties than the spirit, although spirit is part of it. This is a universal law. You take chemistry. I mentioned this example earlier also. Hydrogen is hugely compressible, oxygen is hugely compressible. You put two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen, it will actually put out combustion. Simple. So it can happen. So the properties can be exactly opposite also. That is very much possible. So properties can be alternative, it can be conflicting opposite properties. This is the second thing. Third thing, this new creation in which the spirit entered into the matter will be actually limited in its shape, reach, effect, everything. So all that we talked about for Purusha, Anadi, Ananta, Aparichinna, Kalatita, Gunatita, all of them will go when it enters into this. So then let's go on the reverse direction now. Now the question is, what happens if we transcend from perishability to the so-called imperishability? Now the way to understand it is not that it has become imperishable. The correct way to understand that is to say that which played as perishable is also manifesting as imperishable now. That is the correct meaning. It is not this went and that exists. Because in a Jivan Mukta both will be there. What played as perishable is also manifesting the imperishable part of it. That is what this transition is all about. Simple example. Take a pot kept in a room. Correct? Now pot space, room space, then this space. Space in general. Now pot space, you just break the pot. Break the room. In the context of the room, when you break the pot, this space has become very large. In the context of the room, break the four walls of the room, this space has become very large. In other words, if I write an equation, pot space minus pot is equal to, cancel, pot gets cancelled, it's space. Room space minus room is equal to space. In other words, what is really happening is, what are these pot and room then? Pot and room are namadeyas. They are just tags. They are simply tags. And that is where the spirit by its very definition has no space, no guna, nothing. Moment you attempt to create a guna into it, two things will happen. It will get limited. The properties can be totally opposite. It can have a tag. In fact, in Chandogya Upanishad, it's a beautiful mantra. It's a very heavy mantra. Vacharambanam vikaraha namadeyam. There is a mrinmayam, and it's a very beautiful discussion. Just to tell you, it's all about pot. The discussion is about pot there. Look at this. And honestly, if you go to this level of understanding, It's a very different understanding of the so-called part. I mean, we just take a part for a part and go. Look at this. Part is a name given to earth by us. Clay. There is no such thing as part. It is a tag that we have created. It is a nomenclature we have created. There is nothing like room. Room is a nomenclature we have created. Temple is a nomenclature we created. Kitchen is a nomenclature we created. Bathroom is or a bedroom is a nomenclature we created. So there is no such thing as part. Honestly, if you go to the highest level of understanding, that's what is being discussed in that Vacharambam, Vikaraha, Namadeyam, Mrinmayam and all that discussion. So when you are actually touching a part, the question is, are you touching a part or are you touching clay? Actually you are actually touching a clay. If you really, stretch your imagination and objectively understand this problem, when you touch a part, you are not touching a part actually. Part is a tag you have given. Tag you have given for some vyavahara. Actually you are touching a clay. When I am touching this desk, I am touching the wood. The sat here is wood. This namadeyam is the lectern or a chair or a desk or whatever. Right? So, part is actually only in our head. Outside is only clay. So I am just, pushing this understanding to the first principles. Part is only in our head. On our head means there is an accepted vocabulary, right? Therefore we understand it, and therefore the moment you show me, I say it is part. Actually it is clay. Part is only in our head. It is nowhere. It is just a, yeah.
So by that logic, we are always either touching electrons or space.
Absolutely. So we can go even one step further. I am coming there. You can even go one step further. Because electron, neutron is also a tag. That is exactly where I am getting at. You jumped a few steps perfectly on the right direction only. So, part, so look at this. Part is a conception. Part is a conception. It is actually an interference of time and space. Only when you let the Purusha, when you let this divinity interfere with time and space, you have to create tags. This is the message. What is part? Part is an interference of time and space. It occupies a certain shape, a certain space. It was created on a particular day. It was broken on a particular day. It existed on a particular day. It did not exist on some other day. It's an interference of space and time. It is a notional interpretation of space and time. Because the shape changes, you call it as flower vase. If shape changes, you call it as teacup. These are all notional interpretation that we make. So conceptual interpretation that we have given to clay, reality is only clay. We have called flower vase, pot, teacup and what not. These are all our own interpretations that we have given only for some convenience. Right? So point is, names are given for the sake of convenience in social life. For the purpose of some notional convenience we are given these names. There is no other purpose other than that, right? Practical utilitarian convenience cannot be regarded, can be regarded as an objective reality. Clay has a practical utilitarian meaning, which for convenience you call it as a flower vase, you call it as a teacup, you call it as a pot, you call it as maybe something else, a terracotta horse which is adorning your drawing room or whatever. All these are what you have given. So if you go on this rate, exactly what you said will happen. So part is only a small example. You take the whole vocabulary of the world. They will all fit into this description perfectly. So at this rate, diversities will cease to exist. If you go to the brass root of it, diversities will cease to exist in one stroke. Because you can argue the same thing, even electron, neutron also I will take out. Again I will say it is a certain kind. Somebody will say force, even the force is a tag which I have used. So where are all of them going? That is the Purusha, that is the conceptualization of divinity. So coming back, so the point is, divinity is something which cannot be described. But divinity momentive for notional convenience, for vyavahara, for something, when we want to do something, the namadeyam will come, the tags will come. That is what the world is. World is a tag. Again, world is a tag. It's a certain convenience with which, because your notion of a world will be different from the notion of a world for a fly. If there is an equivalent notion of a world for a frog in the well, it is different. So even world is a very that is what it is. So this chapter is actually pointing us to that. It is saying that all these names and forms are all notional convenience. If you are willing to scratch and go deeper and deeper, you have to reach. That's why the Adhyatma Vidya is starting from there. That is why the Vriksha is upside down. And literally it is in the top. Because all these names and forms, that's what the discussion is in Chandogya Upanishad between the Guru and the Sishya. He says all names will disappear. What are you talking about? These names are all only for rotational conveniences and so on. Hello? Yeah, I will do that. I am in a class, Ramesh. I will talk to you later. I kept it on because if some people don't hear this, I thought they will call me. Anyway, okay. So that is so how far can you go, and what is that ultimate? If you keep on removing the tags, where do you go? That is what this chapter says is Purushottama. That is the meaning of Purushottama. The meaning of Purushottama is our ability to understand the world of nouns and the language and the objects and the vocabulary are purely notional convenience. If you attack the whole thing from a first principles of reality, you will have to end somewhere. And that point is actually Purushottama. That is the message we will see. So I thought I will actually talk about this. The other interesting thing which we will see today is, again, this chapter is great for a simple reason. It is forcing us to understand there is a difference between what and how is one question. In life, you can ask one set of questions which is called what and how. How does it work? What is really happening? These kinds of what and how is one kind of question. There is another very interesting question called who. The question who can be actually asked. I will take a simple example because that's the example you will find in 14 slokas, so I will take the same example. Let's talk about eating. Simple idea. Eating. Moment you gobble food push it down the throat, for all practical purposes you can't do anything. It is impossible. You can't do anything. At most you can put your hand immediately and then cough it out. Leave that aside for the moment. Once it goes in, the question is, you could ask two kinds of questions here. One question is, what happens? What is happening to this food? How is it? Then the whole field of science will come. It will say these acids are there, when it goes through the colon. You can do all that. You can explain in great detail its journey from here to its being purged out after useful material are taken. You can talk about the whole thing. Even in that Chandogya Upanishad, it says the food you take, even there the kind of discussion you find in Chandogya Upanishad you don't find. Even there they say the food you take, when it is being processed, it becomes three parts. That's what it says. It says the stula goes as fecal matter. It says it goes. The middle part, which is not sukshma but neither stula, it goes into the blood and the bones. And it says the sukshma, he says everything has this. The sukshma of the food that you take become your guna. That's what is being discussed there. Anyway, even the what part they are telling differently. Now the question is, these are all fine. I can use biology, I can use chemistry and medicine and put in great detail what happened to the food once you push it down the throat. Now there is another question. Who is digesting the food? How is it digested? What is digestion and all? You will answer with science. Suppose if I ask a simple question, who is digesting the food? The answer is not simple. It is not the question. If you say I am digesting, now you have to ask what is this I. Then we will get into a big chakkar. But we must. Point I am making is, even this is an example. The point is, everything in the world, we can make a choice to ask the what and how, or we can make a choice to ask the who. So the question can make a huge difference. If you ask who, Mundaka Upanishad says you will get into what is called Paravidya. In Mundaka Upanishad, when he was asked, Shaunakaha Mahashalaha Angirasam Papracha Kasmin Vignato Sarvovidam Vignatam Bhavati, for which he said Paravidya and Aparavidya. This whole body of knowledge, including Veda, Upanishad, Gita, everything, science, chemistry, biotech, management, everything he put under what is called Aparavidya. Because all of them are still talking about only the how and the what. It's not really talking about the who. If you inquire who, that's why in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, in that, Vibhuti Yoga, he said, Atma Vidya Vidyanam. He said, of all the Vidyas, you can see me in Atma Vidya. That is one of the Vibhuti, of 72 Vibhutis he talked about. Atma Vidya Vidyanam is what he says. The Atma Vidya is one you will get when you ask who. Who is not a bad question. Who is actually a question which leads you to a question which is much deeper. So that's what we stopped last class. We'll continue from there. So last class we saw the Samsara Vriksha. Little bit we introduced this concept of who and what differences and so on. So with that we will move on. So in Chatussutri of Shankaracharya, he talked about Nitya Vastu Vivekaha, Iha Amutra Bhoga Viragaha, Sadhana Sampat, Shamadamadi Sadhana Sampat, and Mumukshutva as the four methods by which you get this Ashanga Shastra. This sword of detachment comes through these four routes which we talked about in the last class. I thought I'll just recollect that. So that's where the issue is, the how and the who part of it. The how part will further our understanding of materialistic knowledge. It will develop science. It will develop, how things have happened, how is, that I am talking, how is it beamed to a different place, all that you can explain. They are all the how part of it. Even for these, you have to ask who is actually, because last class they said live stream is not coming. So who cannot be answered by this camera or none of us. I still do not know who is actually making it a success at the end of the day. How I can answer? There is a machine I use, there is a computer, there is a connection, all that I can say. Who you have to really ask. That's why very experienced doctors, very mature doctors, they say we will only treat, God will heal. Treating is not healing. Treating is one part of the story, healing is a very different story altogether. Very experienced doctors say we only treat, God heals. God meaning there is a larger force. This chapter is about that larger force. So this, how can say all this? We can know the outside world very well. But with how you will never get to know the inside world. If you want to know the inside world, it is all about who. That Atma Vichara, Atma Vidya is what, that's why this chapter, he only indicates it, we will have to take it. He says, Pachamanyam Vaishwanaro, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah, Pachamanyam Chaturvidam, Deha Prana Pano Samakritva, Pachamanyam Chaturvidam. He talks about the process more than that he talks about the who. It's only an indication. It is a small indication to say, in our journey, we need to learn to ask who. Is how and what is only starting for the journey. If we can ask who, it will give us a very good sense of larger principles, many things in life. I think it will make us more humble. It will make us more understanding of larger principles of life and so on. Okay. So, there are the who part. So in this chapter, shloka 7 to 12 or 14, this middle part, he is introducing the who. He says, I am that Purusha. The who part is being introduced in whatever way which looks, see, when you try to explain who, it will become how. Who has to be contemplated, who cannot be answered that easily. You have to contemplate, but so any attempt to explain who will look like how or what. But we have to get the spirit of this. So the shloka, it says, Mamevamsho jivaloke jiva bhutaha sanatanaha manaha sashtani indriyani prakritistani karshati. So he explains, how did this imperishable got into the perishable? How did the spirit enter into the matter? And he explains the journey. He says, Mama eva amshaha is one part of it. Mama eva amshaha, mama eva amshaha, jiva loke, jiva bhutaha, sanatanaha. So I decided a part of it, I thought I will come and become. Just because you made one part out of a clay, the property of clay, the notion of clay can never get exhausted. That amount of clay may get exhausted, but the fact that a clay can become a pot or a teacup or a flower vase cannot be taken out. That remains forever. It's only one manifestation of that which we have seen it in action in a particular way. So the same way he says, I don't, and this is this, in order to understand this, we have to look at that Shanti mantra. It says, Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamyeva Avasishyate. So it's a principle of infinity. Infinity, if you take infinity minus infinity, is not zero. Infinity, you do any operation on infinity, mathematically it is called indeterminate. That's a correct word to use. So infinity by infinity is not 1. You cannot cancel and say it is 1. It is all indeterminate. Infinity minus infinity is not 0. It's not like 5 minus 5. So you have to remember that before you look at this shloka. So that Purusha is infinite. It's a thermodynamical tank, sink, thermodynamical sink. That's the correct word in thermodynamics they use. It's called sink. You can endlessly reject any amount of heat into it. That's called sink in thermodynamics. So, you can endlessly reject heat into it. It's like that. It's the ulta of that. You can infinitely draw from it. So, it's one component of me becomes Jiva Loka and Jiva Bhuta. Sanatanaha. Right? And he says, I actually use the Prakriti, and out of that I take this. I take what? Manas and Sashta Indriyani. Sashta is more an indication of 5 plus 1. But 5 Indriyani is actually 5 Karmendriya, 5 Jnanendriya. We have to fold all that into it, because as I told you, shlokas are always written with a lot of constraint on meter. It's not like a prose. So that's where interpretation is very important. The meter, forces only so many aksharas in a pada. So we will have to understand it differently, because there is a constraint of writing. That's why interpretation is very important when you have verses. So Sashta Indriyani means Manas plus Pancha Indriyani. Pancha Indriyani are all those. You should put that Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, Pancha Bhuta, Pancha Tanmatra, everything you have to add there, because you have to understand it that way. He says, I take all these. When I decided to come, right, I took all these, and then what does he say? Shariram yat avapnoti. So that's how I manufacture this body. Now manufacture this body. This leg turn also has a body. This projector stand has a body. So body, shariram does not necessarily mean only us, because all shariras are jada. So that is also jada. This sharira is also jada. They are all same only. In other words, what he is saying, I am now providing namadeyam. That's why he explained all those pot and clay, and now I am providing a name and a shape and a form. Using all these, I bring my component, I use all these. That's why I said an imperishable, when the spirit gets into the matter, it can get limited. It can have all imperfections attached to it. Although perfection is also part of it. That's what it is. Shariram yat avapnoti yat cha api utkramati. When I leave also, to kram is to cross. Sankranti is when the sun crosses. Samyak kranti iti sankranti. The word kra, the dhatu kra in Sanskrit is to step or cross. So when it says utkranti, cross up, which means I go. Ut is up. So utkranti means it is going up, which means I am departing this sharira. That's what it means. Utkranti Ishwaraha grihitva etani. Etani, refers to that. I actually, when I made the body, I picked up all those. Right? How did I do? He gives us such a beautiful example. He says, it's like, when the wind blows. When the wind blows, when there is a smell, it takes the smell and blows. But the wind is never affected by that. The wind is never corrupted. When it passes through a gutter, it is smelling. When it passes through a incense stick being blown, it smells very well. It only accentuates an already existing effect. It doesn't have anything. It is only accentuating an effect. It is shapeless, normless, nameless, attributeless. So it is like a spadiga. If you keep a spadiga near a red color flower, the spadiga will look red. You keep a spadiga near a yellow color something, it will look yellow. Spadiga is neither yellow nor red. So that's the example he gives. Vayur gandhaniva ashayat. Just like as the wind passes, it takes the odor which is part of it and accentuates it, but it by itself is very, when it goes, it's left and gone. It's pure. That's why if a wind blows and there is something smelling here, the same wind when it comes there, smell doesn't carry beyond a point. I mean, it doesn't carry. However, the smell is a material thing. This is a wave. Smell is a very material thing. That's why smell, they are not able to transmit it through the internet because it is material. It is not wave. It is particle in a way. So that is what he says here. So he says, how does this Purusha get in now into the system? Right? Then the 9th sloka he says, Shrotram, Chakshuhu, Sparshanam cha rasanam granameva cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. So he says, the smelling, all these 5 senses that you have, smelling, tasting, seeing, Shrotram is hearing, Chakshushu is for seeing, Sparshanam, the feel, right? Rasanam, which is the taste, and Granam, which is the smell, right? So he says, I enabled it, Adhishtaya. I am the Adhishtana. I am the base, because of it is happening. I mean, it doesn't require too much of discussion. That's why a person like so much, I mean, really, oven fresh Mysore Pak or a Jamun is so fond of this person, right? Now if this person is dead, you take this Mysore Pak and wave it in front of his nose or eye, nothing will happen. Because it is not the eye or the nose which is smelling. That is the point he is making. The eye or nose are not smelling. The eye or nose are the frills and bells and whistles at the front. The real action is at the back. They are just the bells and the whistles at the front just to aesthetically put something. That's the end of the story. That's what he is saying. He is saying, I am the one who is doing. He is not seeing. Don't even have this iota of imagination. I is seeing. I is not at all seeing. I am enabling it. Adhishtaya. I am the Adhishtana. Also for the manas. That's why the manas will also not think, no? Moment all these are gone, where is manas? Manas cannot think anymore. It is become jada padartha. The chit is not attributed to the kshetram, which we saw in great detail in chapter 13. The chit is not at all attributed to any of the kshetram. It is the kshetrajna. So this chapter is actually bringing the whole argument of kshetrajna from a concept of Purusha and Purushottama. That's where it is going to take us in terms of where it is going. So all these so-called enjoying, Vishayan Upasevate, all these acting, eating, smelling, enjoying a movie, or hearing a good music, or having a good feel of touch and all that, he says, I am sitting and doing. That's why if you remember in chapter 13, I repeated this shloka several times. I want to say this again now. It says, karya karna kartrutve prakritihi hetuhu uchyate purushaha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve hetuhu uchyate. So Purusha is the one behind this bhojya, he is the bhokta. He is the one who is eating. He is the one who enables the process of eating. And sukha dukkha, all those. Enjoyment all belongs to this entity, not to the other entity. That's why all those are part of Prakriti. These eyes and ears and skin and smelling and the manas, he says they are all inert. I am sitting there, upasevate. That's what it is, Vishayan upasevate. I am the one who is actually consuming all of them. That's why he says, Purushaha sukha dukkhanam bhoktrutve hetuhu uchyate. That is what is being coming here. So it is like this adhisthana and aropana. So we have to understand this concept of adhisthana and aropana. So when you see a movie, in the movie you have all kinds of scenes. There is a fight, there is a big fire, there is a chase, there is all over the place, smoke, everything. All of them are, you are able to see the movie because of the white screen. You are reading all these because of the white screen. So when the movie is over, when they switch on the light, you see a white screen. Nobody reflects on the white screen. But for the white screen, there is no movie. The whole notion of movie is gone. You need a screen. So Purusha is the screen on which we are playing this movie called life. We take the movie to be actually the most important thing. The most important thing is the white screen. Without a white screen, you keep running your projector, nothing you will see because there is no contrast. So that is the movie. The white screen is the Adhisthana, and the movie that runs is the Aropita, that which is latched onto a substratum. So Purusha is the Adhisthana, and what you see on the top of it is good smell, good lecture, good movie, good all that is all running on the top of it. At the back of it is Purusha. That's what he is reminding. Again, he is talking about the who. Although there are a lot of how involved in this, he is again and again pointing to the who. He says you have to ask the who. When you listen to good music, you can enjoy about the music, but if you can become a little reflective, you should ask who is listening this music. Who is enabling this music and who is enabling this act of enjoying this music? This who can be asked. And the prolonged question of the who makes us very reflective. Sees through this larger game and see the electrons and beyond that. That is seeing through, jnanihi tattvadarshinaha. The tattva, tat means that. Tattva is understanding that, which means understanding the adhisthana, not aropita. Can you understand the substratum? If you understood the substratum, you understood most of it. So that is what he is saying. So it is all about, this shloka is all about, not necessarily about how these are done. There is no explanation of how these are, although it appears to be, it's like how these are done, it's actually about who is doing this. Who is smelling? Who is enjoying the taste? Who is saying the taste is not good? That is the question. So that is what is being repeatedly brought out in these shlokas. I skipped a couple of shlokas. I went to 13th shloka. Gam avishya cha bhutani dharayami aham ojasa pushnami cha aushadihi sarvaha somaha bhutva rasatmakaha. So he goes on to explain this who, what are all the things. The process of saying that actually reminds us of the who again. What he says is Gam Avishya. See the word Gau. Gau has 49 meanings. The most popular meaning we know is cow. The English cow has come from the Sanskrit Gau. Right? In fact, I was reading somewhere, there's a I was reading in a book called Pride of India, where they are making this point. Very credible translators. There is one Dutch translator, he is a very credible person. See, he says in Shatapada Brahmana there is a shloka, and he has translated the shloka saying that the earth is moved away from the heavenly bodies by stacking 100 cows one over the other. Shata Gavaha is understood as cow. Actually, what is, in fact, in that book, Pride of India, when this matter is being discussed, there is a shloka and there is a message. They say, if you take earth, moon and sun, these are the three conspicuous celestial bodies, astronomical bodies we know. If you take the ratio of distance to diameter between these, I don't know the exact order, one of them comes as 108.22, another one comes at 108.33. So in Shatapada Brahmana, when he says it is moved 100, this 100 worlds away. The Gau there is world, not cow. They have used 100, stacking 100 cows, 108 cows, one over the other. Anybody who reads it will say, here is a bunch of jokers. They are all, I call it as Vayyakarana Kasuchi. Ka means, sky. Kam sucheti iti, people ask question on Vyakarana, they'll keep looking, difficult to answer. So we call them as Vayyakarana Kasuchi. Kam sucheti iti. As though the sky is going to tell them what is the answer, they will keep looking at it. So this is the problem. They will say these are all sky gazers. What kind of things they have written? This is the disservice that has happened to our ancient Indian wisdom. That's why we need to know Sanskrit. If you go to Amarakosha, you will find 49 meanings for Gau. So Gam, Avishya, is not, going around a cow. He is talking about earth. In other words, here earth also means the universe, not necessarily this earth, planet earth. That's the easiest reference for us. Essentially what he is saying is that I am sustaining this world of creation by getting into it. That is the point he is saying here actually. He says, Gam avishya cha bhutani dharayami aham ojasa. With my energy, I am supporting. That's why in chapter 7, if you look at the 6th shloka, there is a definition of para prakriti. Eyi dharyate jagat. That's the word he says. There is a apara prakriti and para prakriti. The definition of para prakriti is that which can support and behold the entire creation. So there it talked about supporting. Here he says I, the who. There the definition of para prakriti. Here he says the Purusha is nothing but creating even that para prakriti. Through that I am entering into this world. That is what he is saying here. Gam avishya cha bhutani dharayami aham ojasa. With my energy, ojas. Pushnami, I actually flower it, or I make it worthwhile. Right? Cha oshadihi sarvaha oshadihi somaha bhutva rasatmakaha. The soma, in fact, I read somewhere, I think Swami Ranganathananda's book or somewhere, I don't remember. He was quoting that the latest agricultural research, they are saying that the growth of herbs, growth of the plant kingdom has a very intricate relationship to the phase of the moon. So when to actually sow the seeds of the paddy, they say on a full moon day or a new moon day, something I was actually reading it. Somewhere he was actually mentioning. So he says, moon is the sashya, for all the sashyas, adhipati, in a way. It's because of the moon. He says, through this, I bring, the sun and moon are the great concepts. You have to read the first chapter of Prashna Upanishad to understand what is this, these two forces called sun and moon. Rai and prana. These are the two words. Matter and the spirit. We are talking about matter and the spirit. The spirit is a Purusha here, is called prana there. And the Prakriti that we are calling here is called Rai there. First chapter of Prashna Upanishad talks about Rai and prana. With which, because the question that Shishya asked is, from where being all these beings are coming, where are they going? What is sustaining this world? It's a who question there. Who is doing all this? How is this happening? For which there is this whole similar ideas come in Prashna Upanishad first chapter. So that's what he is saying. Somaha bhutva rasatmakaha. Shantanu is saying this streaming is slower today. It's working now. Okay. Yeah. From the beginning, yeah. So he is talking about 4 types of food which you find multiple references in Puranas everywhere. The food we take can be only one of the 4. One is called Bhakshyam. Bhakshyam are all those for which you need a grinder. The teeth is the grinder. Your fried items, hard items, they are called, that's why it's called Bhakshana, no? The act of Bhakshyam is Bhakshana, actually. So, Bhakshyam is that which needs a grinder to grind. That's one type of food. Then Bhojyam. There are certain things which you can simply take. Soup like. They are called Bhojyam. Okay? Then there is something called Lekhyam. The word lick has come from the Sanskrit root lick. Lick is to lick. They say Lekhyam can be eaten only by licking. There is no other way you can eat. Lekhya, that's the meaning of Lekhya. Then you have Choshyam. There are some which you can chew. And typically you chew and then discard. Chewing gum is Choshyam. Again, they are all from chew. They are all Sanskrit roots only. I think I'll have to see the root actually. Maybe something to do with chew only. The root will be somewhere in chew. So chewing gum is from, is typically a chosen. So that is what modern science also talks about 4 types of food. In a way, strikingly, the number is 4. They talk about carbohydrate, fat, proteins, and vitamins and minerals are the 4 types of food modern science is anyway talking about. But anyway, the science is concerned about the how, that's why they came with this classification. If you have to explain how, then you have to say fat, carbohydrate, and protein, minerals, and what happens, all those are the how part of it. And whereas he says, he brings the concept of Vaishwanara, and then there he talks about the who part of it, rather than the what part of it. So that is what he is actually trying to do in this shloka. So the middle, up to this shloka, up to the 14th shloka, from 6th shloka, so it's like this. First 5 shloka is all about samsara vriksha, then ashanga sastrena suviruda moolam dridhena chitva, that concept. Shloka 6 to 14 reminds us that in our journey to become more reflective, understand the reality much better, we must always focus on the who. So all these examples are all coming there, and ends with that aham vaishwanaro bhutva praninam deham ashritaha prana pana samayukta pachamyannam chaturvidam. That's why a lot of people have the practice of uttering that mantra before they eat. Lot of them do it simply because they want to say that I may push anything down my throat, let things become all right. Because for many of us, our health is related to our eating, for vast majority of us. And the great path on which we are going is this so-called junk food. I was in US for about 11 months. I must share this experience with you. I was in the US for 11 months. And I visited a real top business school. I went to, there was a center called Emerging Asia Economy Center or something. So I was visiting there for about a year. So I had 2 secretaries. One was our department secretary, and there was an Emerging Asia Center secretary also. Both of them used to interact with me. These are the only 2 people with whom I used to interact a great deal. First thing I found was, at about 11:30 or 12, all these ladies, and I think even the gents, there is a place where they go change their dress and then they are on the road. Up and down. It's a small town, so 5 times, 6 times you go around the city, town, you are all burnt, all your calories, you are all sweated like anything. They will come back, take a shower, change the dress and have their food. Whereas I would be one person who would never do any of this. I was just doing my work at about 12:30, 1 I will go home and maybe cook and eat and come at 2:33. That was my routine. It was going on for a while. So after a month and a half, when we became so friendly, so one of the secretary asked, what Professor Mahadevan, you are not working out. So first day I smiled, I gently smiled and then I left it. So second time she asked, again I gently smiled and left it. Third time she asked, then I thought, now she warrants actually a reply. So I told her, you first eat the kind of food which I will never eat. There's phenomenal amount of calories which you eat. If you eat better, you burn it. So I neither eat such food, so therefore there is no need for this kind of workout. My workout levels are much lower. So what I am saying, this is the problem with the Indian youngsters now. We have picked up all that hamburgers, double, triple, like this multi-story building here. But they don't exercise as much as they do. This generation's bane is food is directly related to the health. And the Vaishwanara is reaching its limits, I think, perhaps, or, it's simply not working. So food and, so we had a culture. It was a cultural practice. Before we eat, we pray and eat. Because we know the food is not digested because of chemistry or biology. It is digested because of the grace of the Lord. It's all vibhuti. Everything is vibhuti at the end of the day. Without the grace of the Lord, nothing happens. If we think otherwise, we will have some more time to understand. I only generally tell people, wish you good luck. I don't enter into any argument. Maybe you are right. Maybe you need some more time. Nothing works without the grace of the Lord. So food also has to digest. You need the grace of the Lord. So we brought it as part of our practice. Either we say this mantra or we say Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaeva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. It also talks about it is an ahuti I am making. I am not eating to please my sensory pleasures. I am making an ahuti. That mantra says that. I am making an ahuti to you. Here it says, you are the Lord. I give it to you. That's why, we do all that rituals before we eat. So far, he talked those issues. In the concluding part, five shlokas, he is now pushing and saying that, look at how it came. So if you can travel the reverse path, you will see me. I told this. Why? Because I want you to go this way. I have shown you how from A it became B and C. Now you are in a position of C. You contemplate on the who and then reach A. That is what the chapter concludes by giving all these ideas. It ends. So all that I am saying is it's a three-part journey of understanding reality for us. We can understand part as part. We can understand part as clay. We can understand clay as the Lord. The grace of the Lord which expresses in a certain physical form called clay, which enabled a lot of part. The choice is ours. It is our ability of understanding the journey in who, which will take us as much as we can go far. So I, as the one centered in body-mind complex, is how we start. It's all ahankara. I am only doing. Everything is done by me. There is no room for anybody else, leave alone the Lord. I am doing everything. That's the way we start, which is all right. We may have a certain reference point from which we'll have to start. So it's all animal instincts which drives everything, not much need for thinking faculty, because when I am doing everything, this who and all, getting reflective and all those are not required. Why are you wasting your time on all that? You can actually relate these to the three guna chapter, the last chapter. It's a lot of tamasic nature and a good dose of rajasic nature. As you move here, you can get rajas and sattva coming and playing a significant role. That's what this journey is all about. So losing power of discrimination, gross aspects to life, all this is how we start, which is fine. That's the step one. But then, if you can understand this notion of Ashmad and Yushmad Pratyaya Gochara, which I talked about, the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, the Purusha and the Prakriti, the very thought that such a thing exists, this thought must come. Everything starts with thought only. We must buy this thought, then we must live in the thought, question the thought and experience the thought. That's the process. That's why Shrotavyam, Mantavyam and Nididhyasitavyam. Hear this idea, put this idea into your mind, repeatedly question what is this idea telling. If we do it, then we will find there is a possibility that I is beyond the body-mind complex. This is the Prakriti and the Purusha. This is the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. That differences will slowly crop up somewhere. That will come. That thought will happen in its own way, in a small way and so on. Then if you have Shraddha and Vairagya and the Bhakti, that will show us that Vibhuti. This is only the preliminary steps. That's why the middle part of the Bhagavad Gita is all about Shraddha and Bhakti and Vairagya. That is the middle part. From the Dhyana Yoga and then Jnana Vijnana Yoga, then Akshara Brahma Yoga, Rajavihya, Guhya Yoga, and then Vibhuti and your Vishwarupa Darshana and leading to Bhakti Yoga. That stream of thought will actually bring these values to us. That will take us. So that is the thought that we need to connect to the slokas that follows now. So the last four slokas talk about these things. Dvav imau purushau loke kshara cha akshara eva cha. Ksharaha sarvani bhutani kutastaha aksharaha uchyate. He says, in this world itself, you can understand two levels of Purusha. And what are the two levels of Purusha? He says the lowest level of understanding is attaching the Purusha with the gum completely with Prakriti, so that when the Prakriti goes, the Purusha is also gone. That is one level of understanding. That is called Kshara Purusha. Or one can go one step further and say that it is the body which falls, the spirit will not fall. So the Purusha is Akshara, not Kshara. In fact, I tell you, this knowledge is very, very important. In fact, I narrated this story when I was going through my regular classes. It comes to my mind now. One of my very good person in our family had cancer and he passed away at the age of 50. Very nice person. Unfortunately, he had cancer. For 10 years we fought and, and he lost. Finally, he didn't survive. He had, at the time of his passing away, there is a 16-year-old girl, daughter, and a 18-year-old son. Son is I was very close to him. So they were in Bombay. So I went to Bombay. So I went. The two kids asked me, "Sir, uncle, where is my father?" I was really stuck. I didn't know what to say because it's a very genuine question. So I really thought for a while, and then finally I told. I had to say something. So I told both the boy and the girl, they are not that young, not too child, but they are not old either anyway. They're a little bit okay. I told them, see, so far you have seen your father like this, correct? He was, person of this. Only thing you must understand is your father very much is with you. I have to say something here. I was at a loss of words. And I felt very compelled to also say something because there is a very genuine question from the two kids. They were very fond of me and they were very close to them, so they felt like asking me, I think. I said, your father is with you. And I'll tell you how your father is with you. Your father is with you, whenever you see good things, there are certain things which your father liked the most. Whenever you see people or whenever you see such acts, you should learn to see your father. I have to say something. Actually, it's a philosophical truth. Coming to think of it, that is the meaning here. How do I see father? I'll take a much simpler example. This is a very emotional example. Leave it. If you ask me, is Air Deccan exist? I will thumb the desk and say Air Deccan exists. I will never say Air Deccan is dead. You know why? Because if you want to see Air Deccan only with a logo and an airplane, you are seeing a Ksharapurusha. But if you want to see Air Deccan as a concept which will make you fly from here to Delhi for 6,000 rupees, Air Deccan is living. It is never dead. Long live Air Deccan. It is never dead. Because 15 years back, I used to pay 14,000 rupees one way to go to Delhi. Today, I will never pay 14,000. So, it's all question of what is your understanding of reality. So, I told something like that to the kids. While I might not have satisfied them, but that is the correct example to quote here. So, Purusha can be Kshara or Akshara. It all depends on what is your wisdom. What is your understanding of reality. If you see part as only part, when the part is broken, part is not there. If you understand part as clay, even after the part is broken, you see part in another form, which is in the clay form. It returns to its natural state, called clay. Something like that. That is what he is saying. So in this world itself, you can see Kshara Purusha and Akshara Purusha. Which means, have you raised your level of understanding of reality? If you have raised your level of understanding of reality, you will understand the meaning of immortality. So Parikshit did not get immortality, which is magic, that he will never die. Parikshit won over the war of death and became immortal. He was not worried about death. Immortality means death and all are there for the body. In 7 days, Parikshit was taken through a course in which he understood what is the meaning of the body, he understood what is Kshara and Akshara, therefore he has become immortal. So that is the kind of issue which we have to really understand here. So he says, Ksharaha sarvani bhutani kutastaha, the anvil, kutastaha aksharaha uchyate. That one which made you smell, that one which made you see, all that he described before. He says, if you can understand, that will not destroy easily. Otherwise, take another example. If you think cash is only what you count notes, you are at a very fundamental level of understanding cash. Cash is all over here. I'll use this because there is a transponder here. There is I think an internet transponder here. I can actually transfer money. So cash is floating all around here. Who said cash is not here? Cash is all over the place. It all depends on your ability to see through the reality. Cash is all around floating. It will pass through my website into my bank account and go elsewhere if I wish. If I think cash is only this Gandhi photo, 50 rupee, 100 rupee, I have one level of understanding. That's the third example, which can explain this. So, because that will get mutilated, that will get destroyed, that will go one day, but this will never get made. Now they are talking about bitcoins, they are talking about all, e-payment, money and all that. That is the Akshara part of this, Purusha part of the currency. So that's what he says. Uttamaha Purushaha to Anyaha. Now he is bringing a third entity. So far he said, which means a Jivatma is one which has two components, one is destroying and one is not destroying. But he is now bringing Paramatma. He says there is a source to all of them from which it came, to which, that's why it's called Parandhama. That is the ultimate abode. That is the final destination where we need to go. Whatever journey you take, that is the final destination where we need to go. So that is called Paramatma. He says, Uttamaha Purushaha to Anyaha. This is the Purushottama definition he brings. Uttamaha Purushaha to Anyaha. Paramatma iti Udahritaha. The terminology used is called Paramatma. Again, it's a tag. To differentiate between this Purusha and that Purusha, you want to call this as Jivatma, you call that as Paramatma. So, iti Udahritaha. It is only a tag again we use. Just as we use a tag called pot and a teacup and vase and so on, flower vase and so on. It's a tag. But it is to Anyaha. Purusha, Uttamaha Purushaha to Anyaha. Paramatma iti Udahritaha. Yaha Lokatrayamavishya Vibhartyati Avyayaha Ishwaraha. He is that God particle supports these three worlds. Supports these three worlds. And he is the Ishwara, so which means the Kshara and Akshara, because I decided to come. So you see, is my Mama Ekamsha is how we started. Mama Eva Evamsha is how we started. Mama Evamsho, that's how we started this shloka. So when one of my part comes, there is still Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. After you take all that, there is still something remaining. That's why in Purusha Sukta also it says in chapter 10 last he says Purusha Sukta, he says one part is what you see as the manifested world. Tripad Urtva Atha Purusha, he says the remaining three parts you don't even see. I am still there. That's what Purusha Sukta starts. Mama Ekam Shena, that's what he says again in chapter 10 at the end he says Jiva Bhuta, all of them are just one part of mine. In chapter 10 he says. So that part which is remaining, which is the source, which is the Parandhama, which is the goal, which is the Parayana, that is the Purushottama. So in this chapter he good discussion on the Jivatma. The Jivatma is actually not Shara that we think, it is actually Akshara. If you can understand it, you have raised to that second stage of the reality, but there is something even more than that. This Akshara can also get merged into that from where it came. So that is what he is concluding in the chapter with these shlokas. Yasmat aksharam atitaha, yasmat ksharam atitaha, I'm sorry, yasmat ksharam atitaha, aham aksharadapicha. So far I am talking about the changing manifestations, kshara and akshara. This Purusha which I am talking about, it is beyond these two transitory states that you are talking. That's what he says. It is beyond these two. These are all transitory stages of reality which you are trying to understand. So he says, Yasmat ksharat atitaha aham aksharat apicha uttamaha. That is that embodiment and characterization of that third. Ataha asmi loke vedecha pratitaha purushottama. That is why people call me as uttamaha purushaha. Because I am the superset of all these Purushas, whether Kshara or Akshara, whatever you take. Of all these Purushas, there is a superset. That's why I am called Uttama Purusha. Not only in this world, but also in the Vedas, in the all knowledge. Whereas Purva Kanda or Uttara Kanda, there is this, even all theology. Moment you step into theology, there is one larger force. There is one all-encompassing force. Name whatever you want to name. Father or whatever you want to name, there is a recognition of an all-encompassing force which is Sannam Bomum of everything. That's why I am called Uttama. Because I am, of all the Purushas, I am the superior because I am the superset of all of them. So that's how the definition of Uttama Purusha comes and connects it to the Jivatma in this chapter. So I just want to, there are two concluding shlokas, but I want to connect to all the previous references that we have had on these concepts. Not that these are all coming for the first time. You know, we had Apara Prakriti, Para Prakriti and Aham. That Aham always refers to the Purushottama. The Para Prakriti is the Akshara part and the Apara Prakriti is the Kshara part. Similarly, Adibhuta, Adhyatma, Adideva and Adiyajna in chapter 8, first two shlokas are definitions of this. So these are the mapping to that. At that time we looked at those. Kshetra, Kshetrajna and Mam. Again, right? Kshetrajnam api mam vidhi. So moment you say Kshetrajnam api mam vidhi, Kshetrajna is different from Mam and Kshetra is different. There are three there. So those are they. Mahad Brahma, Garbha, Bijam, Aham Pita in chapter 14. I didn't touch these shlokas actually. First two shlokas, 2-3 shlokas you will find. They are all there. Mahad Brahma and Yoni, and then Garbha and the Bijam, and the Aham and the Pita. So these references are all can be connected to this chapter. It is 3 levels of reality. The lowest level we think anything that destroys, that's the end of the story. That's also manifestation of God. This is also manifestation of God and that's also manifestation of God. It all at different level. The wave which breaks in a split second is a manifestation of water. The water is the manifestation of the Panchabhutas. So it all depends on where do we want to understand. If you are at the wave level, then it has end in few seconds. Wave comes and breaks. Taranga, Toya Taranga. So it doesn't, you know.
Still, I'm not very sure about lucid divinity, Akshara and Purushottama. So Shara and Akshara are part of Prakriti, and Purushottama is the higher level. Or it's like,
Okay.
how do we see
How was who created the world? That is that. That is that. The who is that. Who, I mean, after the world is there, people come and go. Conditions are there for people to live and so on. Who created so many plants? Who created 6 billion creatures? Science cannot answer. Science says something was colliding, then I will say who collided it. If science tries to say Big Bang or black hole, I said who created the black hole, I will ask. So you can, if you, that's why you keep on asking this question, where tato vacha nivartante aprapya manasa saha. There is a nice thing in Taittiriya Upanishad. He says tato vacha yato vacha nivartante manasa saha. Once you keep on questioning, your manas and your walk, talking, everything liberates, because you are in silence. You are now, there is no answer. So you contemplate, you can become of that. That's what in Taittiriya Upanishad it says. Yato vacha nivartante aprapya manasa saha. So that is that.
and Akshara, the Kshetra?
Unmanifest.
That which is not manifesting, it is there. The clay is there. Just because the part is gone, don't think that that's the end of the part. As long as clayness is there, nobody can take part from this world. Right? It's like that. Yeah. So, Mundaka Upanishad has some shlokas exactly talking about Akshara, Purushottama. I thought I'll quickly go over it, you know, instead of getting into details, but I thought that's a good way to stop this, end this chapter, because there is so much talk about Purushottama. I thought let us talk about Mundaka Upanishad, some shlokas. There are 4-5 shlokas. Tasmat, from that. Tasmat is from that. It's a Panchami Vibhakti. Tasmat Agnihi Samidaha Yasya Suryaha Somat Parjanyaha Oshadayaha Pritivyam Pumana Retaha Sinchati Yoshitayam Vanyihi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. In one shloka he has explained the whole process of human being or any living beings reproducing. If you have to explain this, I have to take another part of the Upanishad in great detail. What is it saying? It is saying vitality and the seed that a male puts into the female, for which you need vitality, for which you need food. If you need food, you need water. If you need water, you need rain. And plant kingdom, for which you need water. If you need water, you need rain. If you need rain, it's moon and sun in some combination. All those are in a figurative way explained here. It's a very figurative usage. So you cannot take the direct meaning. Direct meaning may not fetch all these. What it is trying to say is, this whole cycle of how this Purusha multiplies, there is one order I have created. These are all divine orders. These are all divine orders which are being created. Who created it? Tasmat. From that. That is what the first shloka is saying. Second shloka is saying about Tasmat, from him, Richaha, Rig, Sama, Yajugumshi, all these sacrificial things for which you need the way of, if you have to properly do a sacrifice, you need all the three Vedas. You use the Rig Veda to invoke, you use the Yajur Veda to do the ritual, and use the Sama Veda to please them and send them. Then only they will give this. In chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita it is there. Yes, Parjanyat, Anna Sambhavaha, Yajna Karma Samudbhavaha, there is one shloka. 13th and 14th shloka, you see this is connected to that. That's why this shloka is coming. So he says everything to do with yajna is also coming from me only. Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, the Diksha, the vitality to do that, the yajna, all the different yajnas, Sarve, Kritavaha, right? Dakshina, right? Samvatsarasya, the notion of time, Yajamanaha, the doer, the Lokaha, Soma, Yatra Pavate, Yatra Suryaha. With all these you purify the outer space, which becomes rain and water, and all that cycle, this cycle will connect that cycle. That's why this cycle is coming there. Tasmacha, everything says Tasmacha, from him. That's why I brought these slokas. Tasmacha devaha bahudaha samprasutaha. Now he is going to the other heavenly. Prasutaha manushyaha pashavo vayamsi. Pranapano vrihi avo tapascha shraddha satyam brahmacharyam vidischa. All worldly order that makes things happen, whether it is running a metro system in perfect planning and all that. It's all about vitality, for which you need tapas, you need shraddha, you need satya, you need brahmacharya. Don't think these are required only for spiritual things. If an institution must work well, all these are required. You need tapas, you need shraddha, you need satyam, you need brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam is a very focused force, undistracted force, which can get things. That's the meaning of brahmacharya. All those I only brought. The brihe, the barley and all those sasyaha, pranapano, this whole in other words, these slokas are all saying, where is this divine? It's working such a perfect divine order here. Sun exactly rises in the month of April at 6:10 a.m. in Tanjore. In fact, all Panchangas are written only with that. Or where you use the Imperial Central. Why should it rise at 6:10? Why not it say, I am too tired, I am doing it every day. Today I come at 4 o'clock in the evening. Our son says, there are more interesting things happening, let me not set today. Won't work.
Vacation.
It's all divine order. This is talking about divine order. And we have taken science have taken all these for granted, and within that they are fixing. Please understand, science is an inner circle. I am talking about an outer circle now. I mean, how can you take all these for granted? Why are you taking all these for granted? So Mundaka Upanishad is forcing us to look at all those. Sapta pranaha prabhavanti tasmat sapta archishaha samidaha sapta homaha. It's a very famous mantra actually. Sapta ime loka yeshu charanti pranaha guhashaya nihita sapta. I mean, it requires a very different explanation. The 7 has a lot of meaning, but anyway, it says the 7 worlds, the 7 different types of fire. There is 7 different types of fire, which is confirmed by modern chemistry. Kali, Karali, Dhumra, Sudrumra Varna, Sulohita, red color, smoky, white color, yellow color. In Mundaka Upanishad, in another chapter, it is there. There are 7 parts of a fire, which they are talking. Chemistry also says the blue flame, the yellow flame, all those are smoky.
Temperatures.
All those are there. You will be able to tell us that. So that is the Saptarchishaha, 7 flames. All those are there. So, in other words, what is he saying? Why are you taking divine order for granted? Why don't you want to ask who has created this divine order? That is what these shlokas are actually pointing to. One more. Ataha samudra gireyascha sarve asmat syandante sindavaha sarva rupaha atascha sarva oshadayo rasascha yenesha bhutehi tishtatehi antaratma. There is something, there is a soul to all of this. All this divine order has their respective soul. He says, I am going and sitting there. Your science and all you cannot find out. But don't, because you don't find out, I mean, it's too unscientific to assume all of them away. Science is the most unscientific thing at one level. No, is it not? Because at one level, anything which is not fitting, we say it doesn't exist. No, we are very rational when we say that. Whereas it is all, paling in comparison with the rationality that you must have. That you cannot find if you say it doesn't. It is like the cat closed the eye and said the sun has set. How can you make such a statement? So this is talking about the divine order, which are all there. It's about the oceans and the mountains and rivers, all the Oshadeha, Rasascha, everything. Rasaha apsu kaunteya, rasosmi apsu kaunteya is what he said. The sapidity that you see in water, you see me there. So all these he has said in several ways. That's the vibhuti he has shown. Whenever you see water, don't look at it as two particles of hydrogen. The biggest problem is we looked at it as two particles of hydrogen and one particle of oxygen. That's why you have water scarcity and abusing the water. If you look at water and see Sri Krishna there, you will now think about how much water to use. You will start measuring in milliliters. Because you have to see that. You have to see divinity. You have to see the Yasya Bhutantra Hi Antaratma. Bhutehi Tishtatehi Antaratma. I am the soul of everything. Our resource usage will go to a very different platform if you understand this concept. That it is all nothing but the grace of the Lord. Then he says, Purushaha yevedam vishwam karma tapo brahma paramritam etadhyo veda nihitam guhayam so avidya grantim vikirita iha saumya. If you understand this, it will unknot your mystery in your heart. The Chit Grandhi. In the same Mundaka Upanishad, there is another nice mantra. It says, Asya Vidyate Sarva Grantihi Shiyante Papaha Sarva Samshaya. There is one nice mantra which says all of the same thing is explained in another place. So he says, your mystery will be unknotted if you contemplate on it, see through it, and seeing is experiencing. Not the seeing part, seeing through experience. So Mundaka Upanishad is bringing this Purushottama so nicely in these shlokas. I thought I will just bring it. And with these two shlokas the chapter ends. We will see the shloka and close chapter 15 for the day. Yomam evam asammudaha janati purushottamam sa sarvavit bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. So he says, you have to see through this. You have to experience this spirit behind the heavenly, the beautiful order in which the world is working. Your science is only using that order. Law of gravity is, who gave a law of gravity? Law of gravity was not man-made. Man used law of gravity and sent rocket or something, or floated the airplane at a particular height and so on. Who gave a law of gravity? That is what it is. So he says, can you appreciate that? Can you see through it? Then you will develop that bhava. That's what he says. When you see it, you will develop the bhava. You know how to, coexist with many things. This is, telling vibhuti in a different way. It is only telling vibhuti in a different way. The Lord of manifestation is being shown in a different way. That's why he says, Sarva bhavena mam bhajati. You will develop that attitude. Well, you will see the whole world as nothing but me. Then your attitude to many things doesn't mean you will stop working, nothing of that kind. Your attitude will change. Your approach to many things will go through its own change. I mean, each one of us may have our own change, but it will go through. That's the point he's saying. Iti guhyatamam shastram idam muktam maya anaga etad buddva buddhiman syat kritakrityascha bharata. This is the kritakritya. What is it that we have to achieve? Not aparavidya. It is paravidya. Atma Vidya. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. I think we must understand reality. We must understand the pinnacle of reality. Our understanding of reality, as we took, are at different layers. If you can understand the pinnacle of reality, you become kritakritya. You seem to have achieved. Because all other things will not give us happiness. Material, outside world cannot give us happiness. What gives happiness today will have a law of diminishing returns. It cannot give happiness tomorrow. So I think our quest, all of us have this quest. What is it that which will give me unending happiness forever? In that search only we actually tested many things and we are still losers. That's why we are not kritakrityaha. If we win, we become kritakrityaha. That's why he uses the word kritakritya. I want you to win this game. What is this game? You want to be eternally blissful, eternally satisfied. Eternally satisfied does not come by going from i5 A phone to i5 C phone or i5 D phone, Apple 5D and all that. I mean, it is all passing. That's why we can never be a kritakritya. Atma Vidya, if you start understanding it and in our own ways, let us take our own time. We don't have to do it tomorrow morning, nothing of that kind. I think we need to develop this appreciation and think about it. Our perspective of the world, our dainandina vyavahara will change. I see that is the most useful thing. Day to day, our perspective to, not that we'll run away from what we do, we'll bring new meaning to what we do. We will take outcomes much more gracefully. Whatever be the outcome, we will put the best foot forward gracefully. Still take outcomes gracefully because we connect many dots. This knowledge is helping us connect dots. What is it doing? It is actually connecting many dots to us. We are looking at each dot and think that is what world is. It is only helping us connect those dots, and I think that is the biggest benefit we will have to get from Bhagavad Gita, which if we keep reading, we will have to. With that, I think we will close this chapter. Om Tassaditi, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, Purushottama Nama Panchadashodhyayah. So next class we will see Daivasiri Sampati, very interesting chapter, which we will see can connect a lot of day-to-day things to that actually, which we will see next class.